Hi, so recently I've been having a lot of people who have left religious circles coming up on my feed, and I've been listening to them. And I want to talk a little bit about that because in some ways I'm kind of writing about that. I'm editing right now in the book about the mind of the architect. And what I'm going to talk about this first. It's body, soul, and spirit. Now, I know some people believe in two-spirited, and that can, be maybe your soul and your spirit. But I think it's this way, and there's a reason why I think it's this way, and so I'll break it up. Your spirit's your life force, your soul is your emotions and all that kind of jazz, and then your physical body. Now, I think two-spirited people can be, having your soul and your spirit be a two-spirit, because sometimes your soul feels like spirit. So, but that's how I see it. And when I've been listening to these people on spiritual abuse, and I believe it's spiritual abuse because it's a religious abuse, which ends up playing a spiritual abuse, that's really affecting all three parts. Because a lot of times it will turn into abusing the body. It plays with your emotions, your will, your psychological well-being, but it also messes with your life force, your breath. Because when they're talking a lot of times in religion, they're talking on a spiritual level. So, what the church has been doing, or these religious circles, has been horrific and is coming out right now. But one of the things I want to talk about that a lot of people probably don't think about is this thing about serving in the church and this thing about tithing. I want to put those two pieces together. How many of you go to work and pay to go to work? What the church has done is they've put themselves in a position where they don't have to pay taxes. The pastor studies the scripture, but how much studying do you really need to do a sermon once a week? Really? I'm talking about pastors who are paid. And then they have all these staff, all these secretaries, and you don't question the pastor. But this is what they do with their congregation. We need people to serve in the church. Oh, and by the way, we need your money. So you're paying to serve in the church. You're paying to work in the church. Oh, but you're serving God. You're paying, you're giving to God. Really? Are you? Or are you giving to the pastors and the ministers who are working there? Are you giving to them? Or are you giving to God? Are you serving God or are you serving man? And they're trying to pretend like they're God. And this is how people get manipulated. Now I want to talk about a couple of things regarding that. Everybody needs belonging. But what are people speaking to when they get down that path? That is the belonging language that I talk about. How are they connecting into people? What terminologies are they using that create that belonging language? Well, I can tell you. I can tell you why people are drawn to that, and I can tell you why people pull away from that. I can tell you the techniques that they're using, whether consciously or subconsciously. That's what I'm writing about. Because everybody needs love and belonging. And when you're not getting love and belonging, you feel depressed, you feel defeated, and sometimes you even feel like, it's a really challenging place to be. And I think a lot of us in our society are struggling because the belonging places have been in our world the bar, the church. Sometimes there's LGBTQ plus places to belong. Work is another place you have belonging at. And when we don't have, or maybe a sports team like softball or something like that, but when we graduate from high school, graduate from college, there aren't a lot of choices of places to belong to. And this is one of the reasons why people get caught up in these places, and you're like, how did you get fooled by that? Because there's such a need for belonging, and we aren't creating more safe places of community and belonging. I can tell you right now, I go to a lot of meetups around AI. I go to a lot of entrepreneur meetups. I see the same people. But do I always feel belonging in there? No. Am I welcomed in there? Most of the time, yeah. Do I see people occasionally? Yeah. But have I made friendships or grown from that? I've seen other people create friendships and people have been working on projects together. I haven't had that happen yet. Other people have. And maybe someday I will. But where is the belonging? How do people find belonging? Is through relating to things that are similar. But there's also an other underlining what creates that relating. What creates that familiarity in relating? There's a commonness. It's not like, hey, we both worked at Intel. Because you both worked in different departments. You have to have something familiar around working at that place that you both either hated or you both enjoyed. Because we're all about love or fear. And then what are the other things that go into that? So I've been watching a lot of those and just really listening to the brokenness that is what's going on. And I'm really breaking this up. I'm breaking this up so people can have more of an understanding of how do we get caught? How do we get caught with belonging language? I think I'm going to do another part on this and talk a little bit more around well, you'll just see in that time. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.